I helped Calvin become the richest man in City A, and then he turned the tables on me and had me killed with his pet canary. Anna? That kind of woman is good as a pawn, but foolish to think she could be my wife. In this new life, I'm plotting revenge by targeting his crazy brother Jason. Jason is just what I need, loyal and good at what he does. With my help, his status soared. Calvin couldn't sit still. You're in love with me. I regret it, I want to marry you. I smirked in response. Later, Jason got down on one knee and proposed to me, saying, Anna, please, let me be your loyal companion for life. At Calvin's company's press conference in City A handsome CEO Calvin, in a sharp suit, stood next to Lisa, the hottest star in the entertainment industry, and announced their engagement. Lisa, my love, stuck by me in tough times, and I won't let her down. I invite everyone to our wedding celebration. Calvin's chiseled face wore a broad smile. Reporters showered praise on this successful young man from City A. But one experienced journalist cut in with a question, and what about your lover Anna? Her? Women like Anna are good as pawns, but dreaming of being my wife? Ridiculous. The press erupted into noise. Calvin and Lisa shared a sweet smile. Those words tore open my heart, leaving it bleeding with no warning. The achievements and status of the woman by his side now? All supported by Calvin. Yet, Calvin's current position was something I built over 6 years. Once, Calvin was just a frivolous young man in the family with no presence. 6 years ago, when his grandfather was critically ill, he came to me to compete with his brothers for family assets. I'm a renowned business tactician known for reviving dying companies. Calvin wasn't business-minded but was a master at sweet-talking women. I was fooled for 6 long years. Now, the same man who promised to marry me if I helped him succeed turned to another woman, one he'd been secretly seeing behind my back. I gripped the photos evidence of Calvin and Lisa's affair, trembling with rage. While driving on the highway, eager to reveal their true nature, a large truck dramatically collided with me, throwing me off the highway. The crash was fatal. At just 26, in my prime, I died a tragic death. The ruthless man I helped ascend to the top ended it all, leaving me devastated. Perhaps the heavens pitied me, granting me another chance to open my eyes. Calvin, Lisa, I won't let you off easily. I'm reborn at 21. Back in the year I pursued a degree in economics at a top university in City A. Despite my ordinary upbringing, I worked hard and garnered a reputation by taking on numerous projects. That year, I met Calvin, and what I believed to be a destined encounter was actually premeditated. This time around, I planned to take control. My focus shifted to Jason, an 18-year-old entering a prestigious university and Calvin's brother. Recalling fragments of memories, I drove to a bar near City A, certain Jason would be there. Turning into a small alley, I witnessed what looked like divine intervention. Jason was notorious in City A young, violent, unscrupulous troublemaker. In 8 out of 10 fight reports, you'd find his name. His reputation as a tyrant preceded him. Smoking, drinking, fighting, nobody could tame him. Coincidentally, Jason was beating up my roommate's brother, Mike. 2 groups of fierce-looking individuals stood by, evidently 2 gangs. Mike, already bloodied with missing teeth, was on the verge of collapse. Jason really went all out. I got out of my car, slamming the door shut. The sudden noise disrupted their heavy tension. I approached, commanding in heels. Let him go, I ordered, catching Jason's attention. His face was model-like with well-defined features, yet a menacing aura surrounded him. What if I don't? Jason coldly replied, tightening his grip on Mike. Won't let go? I smirked as I neared, untying my shirt's necktie. Dressed in a sophisticated outfit, a blouse, pencil skirt, and red heels, I exuded authority, towering over these younger guys. Standing before Jason, I held the tie, asserting my stance. One last chance. Let him go? Jason's henchmen snarled, inching closer but hesitated, cowed by my presence. Jason lifted his head defiantly, eyes filled with defiance, lips tight and silent. Seeing his resistance, I wrapped the tie around his neck, bending close until our eyes locked. I watched his breathing grow labored, sweat slipping down his face to his Adam's apple, heart pounding rapidly. It was intoxicating. I loved the challenge of taming difficult men. So, I tightened my grip. Jason's temple veins bulged, gritting his teeth. "I don't hit women," he admitted grudgingly. "Now will you cooperate?" I whispered into his ear, squeezing harder. "Yes." Jason finally relented, releasing Mike, who gasped for air, before fainting. I released Jason, who panted heavily, catching his breath. His eyes were filled with pure hatred when he looked at me. One of his guys stepped up and helped Jason to his feet. In an unfriendly tone, he asked, "Who are you to Mike?" "He's my friend's little brother, thanks for sparing him," I replied, keeping it polite. "Get him out of here, and make it far," Jason spat, blood on his lips, glaring at me. "All right, we're out," I said cheerfully, lifting Mike and tossing him into a sports car, speeding off under Jason's murderous gaze. "Jason, we'll meet again." "Great." Managed to have a face-off with the big boss. Jason's reputation isn't for nothing. But the fact that Jason doesn't want to see me makes me want to bug him more. Otherwise, how can I take the upper hand for revenge? 8 p.m. I stood outside the Jiang family mansion with a letter in hand. The interview with Jason's mom, Wendy, was now. I've applied to be Jason's tutor. The job's simple, prep Jason for college. I'm this year's top grad, kinda hard to refuse, right? It went smooth. Wendy signed me on without a fuss. She even covered my food, housing, and travel. With my early graduation, I've got free time. Going after Jason, to get back at Calvin, is my main goal. This little brother is interesting. After signing me on, Wendy left. Before she left, she gave a cold glance at a photo hanging in the villa. I stepped closer. It was a couple with a chibi-style Jason. Nothing seemed off. The big mansion was mostly empty except for a few staff and Jason. I learned from Wendy that Jason and the family didn't get along. But her attitude towards Jason felt weird to me. I took my stuff upstairs and chose the room facing Jason's. Know your enemy, right? Can't wait to see how Jason reacts. 11 p.m. I heard the roar of a car engine downstairs. The staff's panicked voices reached me. The young master was back and drunk. Drinking? Why were they so on edge about it? Hearing this, I left my room. Stood on the second-floor balcony watching. The staff were busy in the grand, shiny living room. Frantically making calls and searching for something. Bam! A loud crash echoed. Everyone ran outside scared. No surprise, the young master crashed into his own mansion's wall. I frowned slightly. A second later, Jason stumbled into the living room. Definitely drunk, with a bleeding forehead. What's his problem, abusing himself like this? Who is she? Jason's cold and heavy voice rang out. Anger was dripping from it, filling the whole room. The staff jumped, too scared to answer. I looked Jason in the eye, giving a polite smile. Step down from the stairs, young Master Jiang, we meet again. Jason's dark eyes were like icy pools, his entire face gloomy. Blood streaming down only added terror to the mix. I approached him, extended my hand to shake. Don't remember me? Let's reintroduce ourselves. I'm Anna, your tutor for the college prep this summer. I don't need it, get lost, Jason replied coldly. The smile faded from my face. The staff nearby stammered, sweating, the madam arranged this. What gives her the right? Jason's icy gaze stopped the staff mid-sentence. Jason's eyes shifted to the medical box behind me. Quickly, I grabbed it and opened it. Calmly, I said, you need meds more right now. Jason didn't spare me a glance and tried to walk away. Heart racing, huh? Depression meds and alcohol aren't a good mix, your heart might explode, I remarked casually. Jason halted, eyes darkened. I poured a glass of warm water, grabbed 2 heart rate pills ready to hand over. But he just glared before heading upstairs, slamming the bedroom door behind him. Nice. Quite the attitude. Anna, the staff, concerned, were close to tears. I'll get him to take them. I took the water and meds, following upstairs. Most likely, he locked the door from inside. No big deal. I climbed in through the window. There, I met Jason's bare, well-built torso. Broad shoulders, trim waist, lean muscles. Decent body. Seeing me, Jason's face darkened, eyes on guard, sharp like blades. Take your meds. Get out. I said take the meds. Get out. Jason shouted, but the next moment, he swayed, the room spinning, almost fell on the bed. Caught the moment, I whipped out the handcuffs and swiftly locked one cuff on Jason, the other to the bed's metal frame. Open up, take your meds. I'm not your mom, I won't repeat myself. I warned coolly, pushing the pills to his lips. He seemed to hear something sensitive. I caught the flicker of pain in Jason's eyes. Jaw clenched tight, he looked defiantly at me. Stubborn as hell. Good one. A smile tugged at my lips, as I gazed at him. I took a sip of water. Grabbed Jason's chin, not leaving a sliver of chance, and kissed him hard. People hadn't seen a woman as bold as me before. Jason's teeth were pried open as I slipped a pill inside. He seemed like he wanted to fight back and bite me. I looked into his shadowy eyes. Clearly, he was stunned, almost like a soulless puppet. I quickly backed away. Good boy, that's more like it, I said, patting his head. Jason slowly raised his eyes, his dark gaze reflecting me. He lifted his lips into a charming but inexplicable and spine-chilling smile. Are you daring to play with me? After successfully giving him the pill, I tossed the key to his handcuffs on his bed and went back to my room. At midnight, Calvin called me. He said he needed me at an important dinner meeting a week later. Yep, without me, he wouldn't be able to reel in the investment or clinch his first big deal that could change his status. I just told him, all right. Jason was different from Calvin, as I knew from my past life. The position of CEO heir was meant for Jason because he was more capable, and the Jiang family loved him more. But Calvin soared with my help and gained countless victories. If it weren't for Jason's severe mental illness in the last life and the rumors of his suicide, I couldn't have handled Jason, even with 10 more of me. Jason. I murmured his name, ready to give him a big gift. The next morning, at 6, after washing up, I grabbed the advanced teachings and headed to the study. I figured the servants had informed Jason of his weekly schedule from Monday to Friday. Fine. No problem. Taking a deep breath, I decided to show some teaching tools. I pulled out a black leather whip from my suitcase and marched into Jason's room. Surprisingly, the door wasn't locked. Jason was still lying in bed, his thick eyebrows furrowed. Wake up, it's time to memorize words. His lashes quivered slightly, he didn't even bother to open his eyes, much less acknowledge me. Raising an eyebrow, I brushed the whip across his handsome face. It seemed he was greatly startled. Jason opened his eyes abruptly, glaring at me angrily. I won't study. I pursed my lips and leaned in close, brandishing the whip before him, emphasizing a threat. If you don't study, don't blame me for getting physical. Jason wriggled vigorously, causing a rattling sound from the headboard. I glanced over. He hadn't unlocked last night's handcuffs. I gave him a puzzled look, and he lowered his head in apparent regret. His tousled hair brushed against my cheek, creating an ambiguous atmosphere. I couldn't be bothered, Jason awkwardly explained. Oh. I thought little brother liked playing this way, I chuckled lightly. Jason shuddered all over but then slowly lifted his eyes. In the morning sunlight, his lips curled slightly, his upturned eyes forming a nice arc, yet the sudden eerie grin was chilling. Like a deranged psychopath, his thin lips said provocatively, "Then let's play your way." But as I looked into Jason's eyes, they were devoid of any humor, only an endless void. This sudden change in demeanor. He's a total madman. Jason soon got up and, after breakfast, sat in the study waiting for me. The maid whispered to me that it was the first time he had gotten up so early and stepped into the study. I brought in the English materials and teaching guides. Jason's dark eyes stayed unfocused as he stared blankly at the materials in my hands. It seemed like he hadn't absorbed a single thing I said. I sighed in helplessness, furrowing my brows, thinking, this guy's attention span is an issue. Depression really makes it hard to concentrate. So, I set the materials aside. "Jason," I called, "do you remember the grammar I just went over?" "Nope," he answered boldly. "What about why you hit Mike? Do you remember that?" I switched the topic. "He's a gambling addict and a drunk, conned many for money at school," Jason replied immediately. "Good. Well deserved." I didn't expect him to have a sense of justice. If I'd known the reason back then, I would have approached Jason from a different angle. Probably due to yesterday's fighting, drinking, and wall slamming, Jason didn't look great. I moved my chair closer, looking at him with concern. "What's the matter? Didn't sleep well last night?" Jason suddenly smelled a faint fragrance. Anna's scent? It unexpectedly made him feel both delighted and dependent. "Yeah, didn't sleep well," he replied instinctively. "I know you're sick. We're not in a rush to study now. Let's heal your body first, alright?" I told him gently. Jason looked up at me, his eyes full of visible confusion and conflict. Wow. This guy can switch between angel and devil so easily. What had he been through? "I heard violin music can soothe patients like you. Would you like me to play a piece?" "You can play violin?" Jason asked, raising an eyebrow. "Sure can," I replied, pulling out a violin. It was my passion, something I once abandoned for a so-called man. I chose a light and cheerful music box tune, hoping to help him relax. Jason gradually closed his eyes, enjoying the music as I played. This was perhaps my most heartfelt performance, aiming to win Jason's heart. Once I was done, I realized Jason had fallen asleep. This was probably the most peaceful sleep he'd had in years. He even dreamed of his mother. In the warm morning sun of the backyard, Jason's mom sat on the swing. 3-year-old Jason was in her lap as she softly said, "Jason, be a strong kid. Mommy will always love you." But the mother who claimed to love him closed her eyes forever the next second, dying in that vibrant, flower-filled morning sunlight. As Jason grew, he became afraid of the sun and grew to hate the bloom of spring. Jason couldn't comprehend why his mom had cruelly swallowed sleeping pills and died right in front of him. Does he hate his mom? Jason thought to himself, he had no right to hate. He only blamed himself for being too weak back then. In his dreams, the morning sun became more corrupted, turning into endless nights. In these heavy nights, Jason saw his father, who cared little for him as a child, repeatedly beat and insult his fragile mother and him. He saw his father shower the new wife, Wendy, with endless affection. Turns out, his dad already had an illegitimate child outside before him. Then came Wendy, the stepmom, with her relentless curses and insults, along with the antagonist targeting from brother Calvin. "Mom, do I not deserve happiness? Mom, you were my only light, but how could you abandon me too?" Jason seemed trapped in a nightmare. Yet, faintly, he heard beautiful, hopeful piano music wafting from afar. It floated over, turning the dark night back into the warm morning sun and the beautiful garden Jason once cherished. The light that would save Jason had arrived. It was Anna. "Anna, you'll always love me, understand me, and stay with me, right?" Day after day, Jason fell into the rhythm I set for him. And I realized Jason was a man who really lacked security and companionship. He seemed to rely on me more and more. The day of the dinner with Calvin came. Before leaving, I told Jason, I have a gift for you." He had become very obedient under my guidance, nodding his head, saying he would wait at home. Calvin hired me for 2 months, and I had helped him land several big and small projects. He now looked at me differently, and it was the peak of my fascination with him. However, in my foolish past life, I didn't know he was using the money I helped him earn to secretly keep his mistress entertained. The draft contract was in my hand, and I changed the name of the responsible party to Jason. I put a lot of thought into the contract and added some fancy fonts. This made it hard to notice the difference between Jason and Calvin's names. But I had to talk the collaboration clients into signing under an elaborate tale first. The dinner was booked on a luxury yacht at the Bund, a hard nut to crack. The scene must be extravagant enough. The yacht was packed, everyone on board was either rich or prominent, truly high society. The scenery at the Bund was particularly lively and prosperous, and people on the shore couldn't help but envy. Before the dinner, I came out of the room after washing my hands, ready to attend. What a coincidence, I saw Calvin in a tux, hugging Lisa, who looked shy. Their attachment was palpable. "Calvin, try hard, I want to be the envy of everyone and adored like a mega star. Alright, once I achieve success and fame, I'll elevate you. And kick Anna far away. But promise me not to fall for her. Her status doesn't match mine. I'm still scared, though." "Don't be, once we have money and status, we'll find a way to get rid of her." "Okay, I trust you, Calvin." Lisa gave a sweet smile. Calvin, full of affection, kissed Lisa deeply. I looked on coldly from behind, smirking. Turns out, while I was foolishly in love with Calvin in my past life, Calvin and Lisa were already plotting my demise. Relying on a man is the beginning of self-destruction. "Calvin, is this what you mean by loving me?" I raised my voice, questioning loudly. In the heat of passion, the two jumped in surprise and quickly separated. I, unable to suppress my anger, swiftly stepped forward and slapped Calvin twice. The speed was so fast he couldn't react. Calvin's face on both sides bore my unmistakable handprints. Lisa was stunned for a second, fake tears swiftly forming. She defensively stood behind Calvin, glaring at me viciously, "Don't hurt Calvin." Ha! With a loud slap, Lisa also received a heavy slap from me. Half of her face quickly swelled. Perhaps because she had just had injections, her face was knocked crooked, reaching the sky, looking ridiculously absurd. People on the yacht began to look over in our direction. Some had already taken out their phones to record. Calvin panicked, quickly pushing Lisa away from his embrace. Unprepared, Lisa was pushed away. She, now somewhat known but dressed tightly, was suddenly exposed due to the push. The cameras focused on her. "Look at that, young Master Calvin, you sure are careless. What if you hurt our little star Lisa, wouldn't you feel bad?" I deliberately stressed their names. In the same space, the identities were transparent to each other. A slight reminder and it was understood. There was an uproar. Lisa's beautiful face turned red with shame. But sitting on the ground, she was too embarrassed to stand or remain there. Calvin made no move to help her. "No, you misunderstood, Anna. It's you I truly love." Calvin likely didn't expect me to be so bold at such a timing. Feeling satisfied from the slaps, I swiftly slipped away. Leaving the two of them, nothing more than disgraceful beings, surrounded by the crowd. At the onset of their careers, I dealt them the first blow. Although not entirely ethical, it was effective. At the dinner, I maintained a fit smile dealing with Tom, the biggest raw material supplier in City A. The man had a face full of muscle and wide grins, with a big belly, squinting and winking at me. "Anna, here's to you. Cheers." Originally we were signing this batch of raw materials to someone else, but you guys were quick to act. Tom always seems to drop these comments out of nowhere. "Just joking, if it weren't for us, you probably wouldn't even look at other companies." I get it. Tom is really complimenting us. Having a meal with Tom is already something to strive for, showing we have a shot others don't. Starting with some flattery, I know he loves to hear compliments. Sure enough, Tom's smile got even wider when I said that. Yep, pretty girls always get a better chance too. Tom's words were ambiguous as he picked up his glass to toast me again. You'd have to be clueless not to catch that hint. Guys like him, who've been around and have deep pockets, are just straightforward. I gave a slight smile and parted my lips slightly. I clinked glasses with him. Don't worry, Tom, the beauty will be here soon. I timed it perfectly. Sure enough, a second later, Calvin walked in with Lisa. Lisa stood by Calvin with a delicate face stained with tears, looking pitiful. I noticed Tom's eyes lit up when he saw Lisa. Right on the money. Older men love girls like Lisa, with that innocent aura. But just half an hour ago, Lisa told Calvin to get rid of me. In my last life, this innocent beauty arranged a car accident to take me out after securing marriage and status. Ha, so fake and wicked. You think this life's going to be that easy? Calvin toasted Tom and greeted him, then gave me an apologetic look. Anna, let's handle business first, he said briefly. Ha. Just some simple words to fool women. A simple-minded guy. Tom, our company is solid, that's why we feel confident in acquiring these materials from you, Calvin blurted out rather clumsily. Tom squinted, gave a forced smile, and started filling Calvin's glass. Calvin quickly got drunk. In front of us sly foxes, he was just a naive young guy. He turned to me, boozy and helpless. I feigned indifference, totally ignoring him. It was visibly stressing him out. Yep, spoil a man and he'll only get worse. Tom kept pouring him drinks, and Calvin didn't have any clever responses. That's business, sometimes it's about showing some so-called sincerity. Anna, what do you think? Calvin asked me, looking desperate. When he turned to me, he seemed to grasp the seriousness of the situation. It was all going as planned. I coughed, exchanged a glance with Tom. Tom has agreed to sign a long-term deal for those materials with us, I said deliberately, pausing. Calvin's eyes sparkled, full of hope. But, we all know working with Tom could really elevate us. I emphasized, leading him on. Calvin's excitement was palpable. Tom has one more condition, I said. What condition? Calvin interrupted urgently. I acted hesitant, opening my mouth slightly. Calvin, surely you know how business works. Tom's cloudy eyes evaluated Calvin intensely, projecting strong dominance and scrutiny. Men's affairs, could Calvin afford to ignore it? Tom laughed heartily. Calvin finally relaxed. I want the little star by your side, Lisa. Tom paused briefly, as if weighing the situation. Lisa, right? Tom said quickly. Calvin's face fell, turning beet red. Lisa looked at Calvin timidly, not daring to speak. The room fell silent, growing rather awkward. Tom calmly took a sip of his drink, breathing out leisurely. He turned to me and said, Anna gave me some really good terms, I'm 90% sold. Then, he turned to Calvin, but, Calvin, if you're not going to seize the opportunity. Guess you're passing on the chance to grow rich and powerful since after all, what a man becomes depends on himself. He acted like he was getting up to leave. In the final second, Calvin gritted his teeth, eyes flushed with frustration. He stayed silent. But even silence is a form of compromise. See, men like him will always throw away women for business first. Even the one they love the most. On the contrary, most women in society would willingly give everything for the men around them, told or not. Tom laughed wickedly, running a hand through Lisa's hair. He handed her a glass of deep red wine. Come with me, and you'll live the high life, he promised. Lisa's innocent eyes were unsure, biting her lip tightly. Playing the victim card. Anyone looking on would have found her hard to resist. Tom rose to offer her the drink. Lisa drank it reluctantly, showing little genuine resistance. After all, comparing a big-shot raw materials mogul with some handsome but shallow rich kid. Lisa made the right choice. Huh, ain't that the sad truth? When disaster strikes, couples flee like scattered birds. But I knew Lisa wouldn't have an easy time with Tom. After signing the contract, Tom dragged Lisa to the side couch. Calvin, crushed, drowned himself in drink over the table. I was ready to call it a night. I stepped forward and said, "We've got the contract. Give me your hand so we can sign it." I grabbed Calvin's hand and signed Jason's name firmly. Done. I kicked the unconscious Calvin away, causing him to hit his nose pretty hard. I left without looking back. Late into the night, I returned to Jason's villa. When I entered, the atmosphere was eerily quiet. Shards of shattered porcelain were scattered everywhere. The servants huddled nervously at the entrance to the living room. Their eyes brightened when they saw me, like I was their savior. "Miss Anna. You're finally back," the young master went crazy. Went crazy? Why? I was puzzled. "You should go upstairs and see for yourself, but be careful." I headed upstairs, contract still in hand. Jason was meant to be the fierce eagle in my plans. He would learn about this eventually. And I believed Jason was a smart guy. When I reached upstairs, the heavy scent of blood filled my nose almost immediately. My alarm bells were going off, and I knew something was wrong. The smell was coming from Jason's room. The door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open and scanned the room. Nobody was there. It gripped my heart. Where had Jason gone? I glanced towards the bathroom and, in a blur, noticed some bloodstains. I moved closer. Inside the bathroom, Jason was staring at the mirror, his expression cold and distant. The corners of his lips twisted in a mocking smile. His dark eyes caught me in the mirror, surprised. At his height of about 6 feet 2 inches, the space felt cramped. The vivid blood marks on his wrist shocked me. I felt a chill run through my body. I opened my mouth, unable to speak. "Anna, is this the gift you said you'd give me?" he said, calling me by name. My heart raced with fear. "So you're in love with Calvin? What were you after with me, huh?" His words came through gritted teeth, full of resentment. His eyes blazed a bright red. It seemed he quickly figured out why I was close to him. Jason was smart. "How could you hurt yourself like this?" I asked in disbelief. I steadied myself, determined not to collapse. "Huh? Answer me." Jason suddenly turned towards me, backing me into the corner. I opened my mouth to speak. But he quickly tightened his grip around my neck. "No, let go of me." I gasped, my face turning red, struggling to breathe. But Jason only squeezed harder. I saw the red edges of his eyes. His eyes were full of shattered pain. No, it was me breaking apart, like a grim reaper. Instinctively, I struggled, hitting and kicking him. Finally, I heard his low, crazed voice, "I won't let you go, even if I die." And then, he let me go suddenly. I gulped air, relieved. But then Jason pulled out a dagger. He pointed it towards his heart. I wanted to stop him. But too weakly, I fell back. "No!" I screamed. As the dagger was about to pierce his chest, my hand pulled it back. Bright red blood dripped down. With a clang, the dagger hit the ground. Jason panicked. It was the first time I saw him so flustered. "Anna, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." A servant bandaged my hand. I sighed in relief. My mind buzzed with chaos. But all I could do was stay calm. Silence meant victory. Even though Jason's madness had my heart in a frenzy. Then I took the blood-splattered contract to the study. Jason followed closely, looking despondent. I made him sit quietly in the chair to listen. His wounds were treated. But Jason's whole demeanor was heavy with negative energy, watching me with a mix of hate and guilt. like a big ball of inner conflict. I slammed the contract on the desk. I said, Jason, this is my gift to you. This contract, under your name, secures the toughest deal. Take it and enter the business world. I kept it short and sweet. This level of wealth, who could refuse? I had found evidence Jason wanted to take over the family business. He might seem unstable, but Jason had a sharp business mind and ambition. And he wanted to take charge. Jason gave the contract a quick glance. His expression unreadable. Then he lowered his head, humbled before me. Anna, I don't want any of this. I want to give everything to you. Anna, please punish me. His deep voice echoed in my ear. He looked at me earnestly. Like a giant, fluffy dog. He rose from the chair. And knelt before me. Opening the top buttons of his shirt, revealing his chest. His left arm was wrapped in a small bandage. Blood seeped through. His frame, thin yet firm. Hair jet black, face pale. Sickly yet tempting, like he wanted to be pushed around. I smirked, understanding him. I adjusted my dress with a high slit. Leaning down, I patted his soft hair. Then tilted Jason's chin up. Jason's dark eyes suddenly sparked with life. His breath became heavier. I leaned in, kissing his thin lips. Gently tracing their shape. Sweat formed on Jason's forehead, cheeks redder than mine. His Adam's apple moved slightly. Anna, please, Anna, you're amazing, it feels so good. Jason said a lot that night, Anna, I know you're a trap, but I willingly fell in. Anna, don't leave me. I'll try hard, I'll give you all my assets. I can't live without you, please never leave, okay? I'll behave. The company's main business was run by Jason's grandfather. So with my continuous help and Jason's efforts, his status in the Jiang family rose fast. While Calvin dealt with the fallout from the yacht dinner scandal with Lisa, Jason earned recognition inside the family. Within half a month, he secured his spot as the heir to Jiang's. Half a month later, Calvin showed up uninvited. His chance, brilliantly turned, ruined. Reputation tainted, girl gone, money and position lost. And I bet waking up that morning was tough, seeing his carefully nurtured cabbage taken right before him. As ruthless as his tactics were on me, I wasn't cruel enough. I opened the villa door to let him in. And headed to the living room together. Calvin dropped to his knees with a thud. The gaunt face sported huge dark circles. Sunken cheeks by the sides made him look like the living dead. The whole person looked totally off. Seems like his mind's been through the ringer. Anna, I'm begging you, help me out. Both Calvin and Jason call me Anna, but it feels different. When Calvin says it, it just irritates me. Suddenly, I missed Jason, who could say my name so purely and beautifully. Calvin was crying and begging pathetically. He looked as pitiful as can be. I watched unmoved, took a sip from my teacup. Anna, I know I was wrong, but I don't love Lisa. I was just enchanted and did you wrong, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. I continued to watch him perform in silence, staying calm. Please, Anna, you've already gotten your revenge. Come back to me. I studied his expression closely. 90% sure he was high. Rich folks are something else. If it were a poor guy, he'd probably just buy a rope to end it all. I scoffed bitterly at the world's unfairness. Calvin, we're done. I calmly told him the truth. Upon hearing that, the pleading look on Calvin's face instantly changed. His face fell. A storm was approaching. He must really hate me now. In the blink of an eye, Calvin grabbed an ashtray from the table and hurled it at my face. I stood frozen, my mind blank. At that critical moment, a broad chest appeared in front of me. With a grunt, Jason pulled me into his arms. Thud. The sound of the ashtray shattering. In the chaotic moment, Jason and I tumbled back onto the couch. Jason lay on top of me, a pained expression on his face. "Are you okay? Are you hurt?" I asked, pale. "Brother, why are you protecting this woman? She's out to ruin me. She might hurt you too. She's just using you. This woman belongs in hell." Calvin shouted and lunged at me again. The servants rushed in. They held Calvin down, restraining him. I frantically checked Jason for injuries. He'd taken the hit for me. Looked like his rib cage might be broken. Calvin seemed to switch between being rational and irrational. Now he was desperately pleading, "Anna, you love me." "I regret it. I'll marry you." Jason frowned and said, "Call the cops. He's hurt you." I stood there shocked, looking at him, slightly in disbelief. From Jason's perspective, it was clear Calvin was high. Calling the cops meant sending his brother to jail. From my perspective, I wanted Calvin locked up forever. "Brother, don't call the police, I was wrong, I won't bother you again. Let me go." Calvin cried out desperately. No one paid attention to his tantrum. But the police arrived swiftly, cuffing Calvin. Jason and I watched him being taken away without emotion. The drama came to an end. Jason said, "He's not really my brother." Later, I found out why Jason dealt with darkness and depression. A mom who died young, a cheating dad, a cruel stepmom, an abusive brother, a tragic childhood. No wonder I sensed Wendy's odd behavior at first. Turns out, Calvin was Wendy's biological son. No matter how Wendy pleaded, neither Jason nor his grandfather agreed to bail Calvin out. Luckily, the real power and decision maker in the company was Jason's granddad. Calvin had hurt Jason. How could they possibly agree to let him go? The company not being investigated was already a blessing. With hard work, it was no surprise Jason became the heir. With my and Jason's joint efforts, the business thrived. In City A, it became a leading brand in the wine industry, one of the nation's top 100 companies. Jason and I rose in wealth, becoming legends on the Forbes list. Nurtured by my love and guidance, Jason's depression healed, and he wholeheartedly loved me back. So, on his 22nd birthday, 4 years later, he organized a nationally watched luxurious proposal. In an affluent vineyard, promising forever under romantic sunsets. A world-class orchestra played enchanting violin music from a music box. The same tune I first played for Jason. Guests surrounded us, but I focused on Jason approaching confidently. In a tailored tuxedo, gracefully holding a ring box and flowers, he came. "Anna, Anna," he called. With pure joy in his eyes, Jason handed me the bouquet. Then, on one knee, bowed slightly, like a devoted follower. Having never experienced such a scene, I felt nervous, palms sweaty. Guests cheered around us. "Anna, you saved me, my heart beats for you. I hope you'll say yes, marry me." Jason looked at me earnestly, with warm, ardent eyes. He slowly opened the ring box, revealing $1 million diamond. People started chanting, "Say yes. Say yes." Breathing deeply, I smiled. At that moment, I knew Jason and I shared a clear, steady happiness. Seeing me dazed, Jason grew anxious. He whispered, "Anna, please, let me be yours forever." At this, I burst into laughter. I extended my hand. Jason smiled too, his smile dazzling under the sunset. Then he slipped the ring onto my right hand's ring finger. "This lifetime, you're mine." "Yes, this lifetime, I'm yours."